right, gold bulls. I know you're all excited. The gold markets and, well, silver as well have made big moves this week. And it does look like new record highs for gold against the US dollars is inbound. A few weeks ago, around mid-March, I talked about certain gold charts. I talked about gold versus the Australian dollar, ripping out, breaking out into new record highs. I really like these weekly chart setups. We're going to talk about them when we look at gold versus the US dollar. But you can see, this breakout happened in the week of March 13th. Couple of weeks of just some consolidation. We didn't really see a retest back before heading out higher. But you can see that the gold against the Australian dollar also made new record highs this week as well. I highlighted gold versus the British pound. Same week when gold versus the Aussie made new record highs, gold versus the pound did the same. Very, very nice retest occurring right now. So if you are a trader looking at, trading gold higher against the British pound, might be a nice technical setup here with a retest of this breakout zone. Gold versus the New Zealand dollar also broke out into new record highs, same week as gold against the Aussie. And you can see the chart looks very, very similar with no pullback, but just, rising higher. Although it has not printed new record highs this week, unlike the other currencies that I have mentioned. Gold versus the Japanese yen also broke out into new record highs during that same week of March 13th. And you can see this week, we have a continuation with new record highs printing against gold versus the yen. And I also believe the same can be said, yes, indeed, for gold versus the Indian rupee, breaking out into new record highs and also printing new record highs this week. So it leaves us with, a few other currencies still waiting to make new record highs against, gold to make against these fiat. One is, of course, gold versus the euro. Still some pips away before we can confirm new record highs against the euro. Swiss franc as well. Still a few more pips away before we can confirm new all-time record highs. And for my Canadian followers here, we are very, very close to previous all-time record highs printed in 2020. And this is gold versus the CAD. Very, very nice uptrend here on the weekly charts, which is a chart I like to focus on, especially because of what we're seeing on all these technicals and the uptrend that gold is still in on these longer time frames, which are very, very important. But this 2,750 in gold versus the Canadian loonie here is going to be a very important zone, and we might be a few weeks away before we confirm new record highs there. But of course, a lot of people, when they think about gold, it's always gold versus the US dollar. Gold, seen as that having a negative correlation with the US dollar. We've seen news about the dollar recently. The dollar has been dropping. A lot of moves made by the BRICS nations about dropping the dollar for trade. So China and Brazil make a deal. I believe we actually even saw France and China also land a deal there as well. So, a lot of news right now about the dollar weakening and losing, that maybe potentially losing that reserve currency status down the road here. And that's, been bringing the dollar down, which also helped gold go higher. But there's other things as well, right? There's the idea that the US economy is slowing down, which would cause the Fed to pause hiking interest rates. And a lot of people have said this, near the beginning of 2023, that would be the bullish trigger for gold, is when the Fed actually begins to, gets near their terminal rate, announces a pause, because of course gold doesn't yield anything. And then there's also this other idea that when things are, let's say, crazy, or when there's a lot of uncertainty, some fear, maybe when confidence is beginning to decline, that money runs into gold, right, for safety. It's always been money. It doesn't matter what regime, it will always be money, or be an accepted form of money. So there's that thing to consider as well, right? With all these headlines that we're seeing recently, with all this uncertainty now also with, Fed rate hikes, inflation, oil prices. Maybe it's a good time to, look at gold for protecting your purchasing power. So I want to focus here on this gold versus the US dollar chart because that is, of course, the gold chart that many people focus on. But as I said, I really think gold traders should look at gold versus all those other fiats. And we've seen already new record highs in against those fiats and, a few currencies like the CAD and maybe the euro potentially getting very, very close to that. But gold versus the US dollar, I highlighted in previous articles and previous videos this flag or channel that I've drawn out on the weekly chart. So this is a very long term going back to 2020 here. And gold has respected these trend lines and these support and resistance levels. And just recently, on the week of March 13th, we didn't get breakout into all-time record highs as we saw with a few other gold markets, but it was a very, very strong week for gold there. And the weekly chart for gold against the US dollar actually confirmed all like a candle close, right? A candle body close above this trend line that I've drawn out here, which in my opinion was a very, very strong indication that, okay, we have something triggering here. You can see the following weeks, there's a bit of choppy price action, but price is still held above that trend line. We even saw buyers stepping in. And this trend line, would also, I guess, coincide with a resistance zone here now turned into support. This week, now we've seen that breakout, which I think is very, very significant for gold traders. And if we go now down to the daily chart, you can see what is occurring with this breakout now. Gold is back above $2,000 an ounce against the US dollar. Very, very nice price action on April 4th. And this is just now typical breakout and continuation now. So if I bring out my arrow here, whenever you get a breakout, you do expect to see some sort of retest back to the breakout level, see some buyers step in before we continue higher. And I see good evidence of that. You can see this is, again, the daily chart, but you can see we have a large wick here indicating that buyers are stepping in. If you want more evidence, you can go down to the lower time frames. You can see that, yes, indeed, we have this big green candle indicating that there is a wall of buyers ready to step in here. Go further down if you want. On the 15-minute, you can see the wicks are also respecting this 2000 zone level, which is also a very important sort of psychological zone as well, right? So the breakout is still intact. I would remain bullish in gold as long as we remain above, this trend line that I've drawn out on the weekly chart. So that 1960 zone, I would even bring it down to 1940, just because that is sort of the, well, technically you could say the higher low that we are working with in this move higher. But if we go back to that weekly chart, let me just clean up some of these arrows because you don't want to see that on my weekly chart there. But the next resistance coming for gold against the US dollar is that 2070 zone, right? So all-time record highs that I have here on the chart was 2075.28. So that is the next resistance zone we have ahead here for gold. So as long as we hold above this 1960, 1950 zone, we will retest that level. I'm looking at this structure, however. So as you can see, I'm more of a market structure guy. I've talked about this in plenty of articles before, but in an uptrend, you don't just go up in a straight line, right? You have these waves or these higher lows and higher highs where you get this move up higher, you get a pullback, get your first higher low, move higher, get a bit of a pullback, and you continue to make these waves, right? And you can sort of see that, even here in this downtrend where you get this move lower, you get a bit of a pullback, and then you move lower, and that's your lower highs and lower lows. So we are seeing the opposite of that now. Obviously, in an uptrend, you have higher lows and higher highs, and you tend to see at least two of these swings, right? So we have one here, and I believe we are due for another swing here, and some would even argue that this pullback accounts for that swing, although you can see with some of the price action here with the dojis and these type of long wick candles, that it can actually technically still be part of the wave higher before we get major pullback, giving us that swing. So just looking at what's going on, I guess you could say fundamentally around the world and with the Fed, what we're seeing here with the charts technically with this major breakout occurring on this flag pattern, what we're seeing in other gold markets as well. I think that this next leg or the second higher low in gold against the US dollar will take us out into new record highs, climbing above the 2075 zone here and this resistance zone. So very exciting for gold traders. And let's just take a quick look here in silver. Another major weekly zone here about to break out. If I go down to the daily chart, you'll see that we had this breakout on April 4th as well, which took us above. Look at all this resistance that was here, right? So we know silver saw a lot of sellers previously at this resistance zone, but now the buyers have beaten the sellers here, have taken out higher. And I think that's a very significant breakout in silver. And silver does tend to follow gold in terms of price action. I would, however, just watch for one area that we're testing here, and that is the psychological number, which is $25. So we're at $24.95. You can see around here that $25 zone has seen some resistance. So I would say, if we get a nice daily close above 25 on silver versus the US dollar here, that would be a very significant breakout, and that would take us out to these highs, around 26 and higher. And my major, resistance zone still comes in around $28, and that is coming from that weekly chart. So very major breakouts here in the precious metals. Long-term charts, as I said, focus on those because that shows you where the markets are going, in the bigger picture, right? Whereas the lower time frames provide opportunities for pullbacks and stuff. So the longer term charts, use that for your uptrend or your downtrend, and then play the pullbacks and relief rallies on the lower time frames. But everything here looks bullish for gold, looks bullish for silver, and those resistance levels, especially on gold versus US dollar, I think are going to be tested and likely broken through in maybe a few weeks' times here, folks. So that's it for me. Let me know in the comments below if you guys are bullish gold and the precious metals. And if you think that we will make new record highs against the US dollar when it comes to gold versus the USD. I really want to see your comments in the box below. Be sure to subscribe and be sure to follow us, and I will catch you guys all in the next chart attack.